This movie starts with activities that transpired 3 years ago. Jude wakes up and notices he is probably messed up. He gets up from the bed and picks up his phone. Visibly distressed, he makes a call. Jude's wife, Cynthia, is at the other end, and Jude lies to her that he's at the office. She's presently at the office though, and Jude, in trying to cover up his lie, quickly says he's only gone to a friend's office nearby and that she'll see him in a few minutes. Cynthia looks on, puzzled. Jude knows he hasn't timed his infidelity movement properly this time. While he dresses up, his mistress comes out from the bathroom and tries to caress him, but he's not interested. All he wants is to get to his wife as soon as possible. The movie shifts focus to 3 months before the present day. In this scene, husband and wife, Lonry and Joke, are in their bedroom. Lonry lies down, reading a magazine. Joke joins Lonry, seductively crawling into bed. She slowly makes her way to him and tries to kiss him, but Lonry turns his face away. He's not in the mood to make love at the moment. He drops the magazine and turns on his side, leaving Joke hanging and shocked. 3 days before the present day, another couple, Dan and Nina, are holding hands and walking down the beachside. They get to a spot and kiss as lovers as they are. Jude, Lonry, and Dan are friends. It's the present day, and Jude is entering his office and dialing Lonry's line, who's busy in his study. Lonry answers the call, and Jude suggests that the three of them and their wives go out of town for a few days. He suggests his place in Ibadan. Lonry thinks the timing is perfect for him. Jude wants to hear from Dan, and places a call through to him while Lonry stays on. He shares the idea with Dan, who isn't receptive at first. He welcomes the idea when he realizes that there's a public holiday just before the weekend. The three men are in tandem, and it's time they let the ladies know. Before they let the ladies know, they chat about how Nina's bridal shower went. It was fun for the ladies, and Dan mentions that they had male strippers entertain them. They laugh about it, guessing it was Joke's idea. She's the intense one among the ladies. Dan jokes that Lonry must be going through a lot in the bedroom. Jude mentions he has to hang up and finish work. He states that his PA, Tina, is on his neck to deliver some jobs. The discussion now switches to Tina. Dan tells Lonry how beautiful Tina is, and he marvels. While he's still on the call, Tina walks in. After Jude ends the call, Tina reminds him of his meeting in 10 minutes. He had forgotten, and as Tina leaves, he calls her back and thanks her for all she does in and around the office. Joke and Lonry are driving. Joke's inner monologue praises Jude's car. When they drive into the filling station, Joke asks Lonry if they can get a car with good leather seats. Lonry thinks that Joke should learn to control the thing inside her that makes her always want to spend money. He calls it a shopaholic demon. Joke can swear that she has no form of demon in her. Lonry complains that Joke doesn't hold any cards when it comes to spending, as she's been very reckless with money in recent times. Her recklessness has put them in a financial crisis. Joke thinks that Lonry is sulking, but Lonry makes her see the extent her actions have caused. He's worried they wouldn't even have money to spend on their getaway. Joke now comes to her senses, and Lonry says he has to tell his friends about their situation, making Joke ashamed of herself. Lonry concludes there'd be no shopping of any sort for a while, and no vacation till they recover fully. Joke still thinks that they shouldn't dwell on their failings and just enjoy the weekend. The three couples are now in Jude's hometown, Ibadan, for their getaway. They just arrived and the boys are getting their luggage out of their respective cars while they tease Nina. As the others go inside, Jude goes over to the gatehouse and meets Odewale, the security guard, whose English is very bad. The man is so happy to see Jude. After they complain about someone who's supposed to do a job for them and hasn't shown up, the security guard intends to relay a matter to Jude. As Lonry and Dan go inside, Joke lines up her activities for the rest of the day. A bath, a massage, and a good sleep. Nina likes the idea, and would probably do the same. Cynthia thinks it's an opportunity for her to fix them a meal. Nina stops her. She thinks that it is only appropriate that the three ladies join hands in making any meal so as to reduce the workload for one person. Nina quickly brings up the gossip of Vero. The rich lady was caught with a delivery boy in her room carrying out acts not befitting someone of Vero's status. They gather around Nina as she shows them the pictures. The women know that gossip hits harder when there is picture evidence. Now outside the compound, Odewale is telling Jude his intention to go with Jude back to Lagos. He says he intends to meet a man called Jagaban there. He reminds Jude that since he works in one of Jagaban's establishments, Jude can easily introduce him to Jagaban. Jude is perplexed at Odewale's level of reasoning. Jude questions Odewale's supposed educational background and qualifications. As he tries to explain the situation regarding his supposed educational issues, he muddles up everything, putting Jude in a state of confusion. Back in the house, Lonry and Dan come into the sitting room with drinks while the ladies continue their conversation. Jude is done with his funny discussion outside. Cynthia suggests to Jude that they take their guests to their various rooms so everyone can settle in, and they go on to do that. Jude's phone rings, and as he goes to a quiet place to take the call, he casually tells them how to get to their rooms. Cynthia is a bit distressed by Jude's incessant phoning. Much later, the ladies are in the kitchen preparing a meal for themselves and their husbands. Joke talks about how Lanra's new business has taken up all their money, hence she has to reduce her vacations to 2 or 3 times a year. Nina is surprised at Joke's declaration. She wants to know what Joke's vacation timetable would look like if everything were working fine. Joke traveled up to 8 times annually. This comes as a shock to the ladies who feel Joke is being insensitive. The joke references Jude as her definition of a man. He makes a lot of money and can afford to buy anything he wants. The other ladies advise her to be patient with Lanra, who's doing everything to follow his dreams and make money while at it. As they talk, Cynthia blurts out that Jude isn't perfect either. This surprises Joke and Nina, who question why she has made such a statement. Cynthia complains that Jude's new job keeps him so busy and he's always on the phone and hardly has time for her too. Joke asserts she'll be fine with his partner not having time for her, as long as he brings a lot of money home. Nina tries to calm Cynthia down by making excuses for Jude. She infers it's probably the pressure that comes with the job, but Cynthia doesn't think so. She thinks an issue that almost scattered their marriage is playing out again. Jude's constant complaints of Cynthia getting too fat and not wearing her makeup properly. Cynthia believes Jude's PA, Tina, is the genesis of their current marital failings. She mentions that Tina, who is very beautiful and single, won't stop calling him. This vexes Joke, who proposes to beat her up and remove one of her eyeballs when they get back to Lagos. Nina doesn't see Jude capable of cheating on Cynthia again, not after how much he begged her the last time he was caught. Cynthia mentions that Jude has no discipline when he sees a woman that appeals to him. She further complains that it has gotten worse because Jude makes it obvious that she doesn't appeal to him again. Joke chips in her own issues. She's in the same situation that Cynthia is in, except for the cheating. Joke clarifies that Lanra doesn't cheat, but complains that he doesn't have sex with her anymore. It's been months since they've had any relations. Nina professes the ladies should do better and spice things up, but Joke cuts in, stating that Nina and Dan's marriage isn't always going to be like that. Joke also informs them that she and Lanra started off pretty good to the extent that their neighbors saw them as freaks, but it isn't the same any longer. The guys are seeing a football game in the sitting room. They're on opposing teams and are chatting about the game. Lanra just sits in one corner, not very much into the game though. When the other two ask, he tells them he has a lot on his mind. While they talk, Jude's phone rings and it's Tina. He excuses himself to pick up the call. Dan asks Lanra how the business has been and if their investments promise a good yield. With skepticism, Lanra tells Dan they'd have to see how far their investments can yield at the end of the year. Jude walks back in and Dan asks him what Cynthia has chosen to do. Jude fills them in and tells them that the business hasn't had good distribution. When asked, Dan informs them that marriage has been great for them and details every aspect of it. They chat a little more about kids, with Dan claiming he's not thinking about having kids just yet. Food is ready and served. While everyone sits, Jude's phone rings and everyone's eyes are fixated on him. They anticipate his next line of action, and he reads the room, blurting out that he'll take the call later. This changes Cynthia's mood as the rest of them eat and chat. There's a knock at the main gate and Ottawale goes to answer. It's Judy. Ottawale wants to know what Judy has brought for him before she goes inside. He tells Judy to learn to respect him more, as he'd be going to Lagos soon to meet with Jagaban. Judy, who told Ottawale about Jude's new job, is angry that Ottawale must have made it known that she's the one who revealed that info to him. While she hisses and walks off, Ottawale admires her and soliloquizes about how much he wants her body. Judy uses the back door to gain entrance into the kitchen and meets Cynthia. Cynthia thanks her for the groceries and tells her she'll be staying in the boys' quarters till she and her friends leave. Judy asks Cynthia if she feels better now. She asks this based on an incident that involved herself and Cynthia the last time they visited. Cynthia is shocked and voices all is well, but reminds her that they can't be talking about something like that. She goes on to politely dismiss Judy. Now in Cynthia and Jude's bedroom, Cynthia updates Jude that Judy still remembers the incident that happened 3 years ago. They both hope that Judy continues to keep mum over the issue. Cynthia picked up on Lanra's low spirit at dinner. Jude, whose phone has taken the larger part of his attention, hadn't noticed. Cynthia inches closer to Jude and updates him on Joke's revelation that Lanra's manhood isn't working. Jude is devastated on his behalf. He opines it's a very bad spot, even as Joke is very big on having a great sexual life. As they talk, Jude's phone rings, and Cynthia warns him not to pick up the call. She argues that PAs shouldn't be calling their bosses by 11 p.m., when husbands and wives should be cuddling. She calls Tina several names, but Jude doesn't mind as he steps into the bathroom to answer the call. The same night, Lanray is pacing in the room while he scolds Joke, who is almost unbothered. How would he pay back his friends' money and their supposed profit at the end of the year? He wonders how Joke maxed a $1 credit card, buying material things like expensive hair for personal use. Joke apologizes, but not from her heart. She couldn't really care less. Joke reiterates that there's nothing she can do about it now, and her apologies should satisfy him. Lanray angrily lays in bed. Joke, who wants her sexual desires met, gets the message as Lanray lies down. No sugar tonight. He expresses he's too worried about getting back the money she has squandered, and being intimate is the last thing on his mind. They both lie down, facing opposite directions. The same night, the lovebirds of the group, Nina and Dan, are having a smooth cuddling session in their room. Life is good, isn't it? Nina hopes that she and Dan stay loving themselves. She complains about the others. Dan tells her to be calm, and that every marriage has its issues. They share a kiss and get naughty. The next morning, the ladies are in the sitting room chatting and talking about some celebrities. The trajectory of their discussion changes, and they soon start talking about how the spark in marriages can dwindle along the line. At that moment, Cynthia begins talking about how sweet Jude used to be before they married. Little did she know that he was sweet to every other lady also. Joke picks up from there and begins to lament her plight, but Nina cuts it short. She begins singing a song that narrates what love entails. At the end of the rendition, the three ladies hug and cheer up. Oda Whale walks by and hears the sound of water pouring down in Judy's bathroom. He takes a bucket and stands on it to peep at Judy before going back to his post. Judy senses someone is spying and comes out, but can't find anyone or evidence. The boys are playing basketball on the court. They notice that Lanray isn't very fit as he gets tired easily. They begin teasing his prowess in bed, and Jude mentions that he knows Lanray hasn't even been fit to be intimate. Lanray, hearing this, is shocked and wants to know who told Jude. Jude and Dan continue playing, and don't notice that Lanray is now in a bad mood. He storms inside while Dan and Jude continue playing and teasing. As he enters the sitting room, the boys come in laughing and still teasing. Lanray sees Joke but doesn't feel the need to lash out at her. Instead, he storms inside. Joke doesn't know what she has done this time. Cynthia asks her to go talk to him, and then everyone should prepare to go out. Jude and Dan can't stop being in a cheerful mood. The group goes to a resort. Nina and Dan hold hands and enter cheerfully. Cynthia can't get Jude's attention as he's on his phone. Lanray can't hide his disdain for what happened earlier, and after a little back and forth, Joke walks faster and leaves him. The boys sit by a pool with Jude still on his phone. Dan points out a lady on the opposite side of the pool. He tells Jude that the lady has been staring at him. Jude wonders why they think the lady is staring at him, so they explain he's the one with lady issues. They talk about how Jude always ran into women's issues back in the day. They shift focus to Dan, who talks about why he left Augusta, his ex, for Nina. Augusta has a tattoo around her private part, and this freaked Dan out. Jude swears that he'd have done the same thing too, but Lanray and Dan laugh it off. Jude would hit any lady he came across. Jude is a changed person. Even when Dan asks him about Tina, he swears that even though Tina is hot, he'd never have anything promiscuous with her. He can't afford to go back to his old life, not after he promised Cynthia he'd never do that again. Dan and Lanray believe Jude can never repent. They see their wives gorgeously approaching the pool, and they get into the pool to wait for them. The wives join them and the fun begins. After swimming and playing ball in the pool, they explore other parts of the park. It's a good day for the three couples as they get to unwind. As they leave the park, there's still energy for more adventures, and they hit an entertainment center. They start bowling, and then go to the cinema to see a movie. They're now home, and every couple except Lanray and Joke are cuddled up, watching TV. Cynthia and Jude are having a playful couples argument, while Dan and Jude give their opinions about the movie. Nina faults Dan's opinion, and Joke cuts in. Playfully, she wants the other ladies to appreciate their men for watching movies, unlike Lanray, who doesn't. Lanray now wants to retire to his bed after the movie is finished. He's about to get up when Joke playfully touches him, and he shoves her hand and angrily tells her to leave him alone. This shocks everyone. After Joke follows Lanray inside, Cynthia tells Jude and Dan to make sure they resolve whatever problem they obviously started. She and Nina get up and go in. Joke meets Lanray in the bedroom and asks him what the problem is. She thinks that Lanray is acting childish, exhibiting a terrible attitude. Lanray doesn't explain where she has gone wrong, and ridicules her instead by voicing she has a leaking mouth. Joke concludes that Lanray is only acting this way to avoid sleeping with her again. She says her mind and leaves the room. Joke retreats to the sitting room and meets Jude alone, watching a movie. She takes up Jude's drink because she needs it to feel better. Jude tells her he's awake because he needs to clear his head. His work has been so much and Tina isn't letting any task slide. Joke picks up from there and relays all she has heard. Jude corrects the notion that he's having an affair with Tina. Jude also tells Joke that Cynthia thinks he's no longer attracted to her and that she's scared of getting old. They begin talking about how they each married partners with opposing characters. Jude clarifies that marriage to Cynthia has been so boring, and he has more fun chatting with Tina. Joke is vexed and promises to deal with Tina if she gets the chance. Jude confirms he still loves Cynthia, but there's a lingering issue that forces him to bury himself in work. He says he can't divulge what the issue is. Joke begins talking about her issues, the fact that Lanray hasn't touched her since she had a miscarriage. Joke had suggested to Lanray that they go see a fertility doctor, but Lanray frowned seriously at the idea. She begins crying and then rests her head on Jude's shoulder, who pats her in return. Cynthia has been awake for a while and walks to the sitting room, running into Jude and Joke kissing. She doesn't reveal her presence and enters through a door just before the sitting room to hide. Jude and Joke return back to their senses and begin apologizing to each other. The next morning, Oduwale resumes his quest to watch Judy bathe. This time, Judy anticipates it and pours water on him, then she starts hitting him. Dan makes a joke about Lanray's manhood not working, and this angers Lanray, who thinks it's a joke taken too far. After a friendly argument, Lanray explains that he just doesn't want to be intimate. While they talk, Joke enters and starts crying and accusing Lanray of being mean to her by not touching her. There's a little rancor and Jude holds a crying Joke to console her. Nina and Cynthia walk in. Then Cynthia reveals the kissing incident she walked in on the previous night. She's angry, and as Jude tries to explain, she slaps him before Nina ushers her out. Lanray is disappointed. Lanray thinks it's a good opportunity for him to let the cat out of the bag. He reveals how he found out that Joke had previously aborted 8 different pregnancies. The fact that Joke hid it from him is a deal-breaker. Joke tries to beg, but he shoves her aside and tells Jude to have her. Cynthia, who is visibly devastated, now goes over to tell Jude how disappointed she is. She's done with the marriage and turns to leave when Jude touches her. Jude's touch irritates her so much that she picks up a table knife close by and threatens to stab him. Nina is there to pull her away yet again. Now outside, Dan asks Lanray to be calm, but Lanray is sure no one would be calm in this kind of situation. Dan advises Lanray to talk to Jude because he believes whatever happened wasn't something very intimate. Lanray is pained that he's been there for Joke, but Joke keeps paying him with betrayals. Dan insists he should still talk to Joke also, because Joke deserves to be heard. Cynthia and Nina are discussing the issue at hand. Nina thinks that Cynthia should be willing to forgive Jude. Cynthia has a lot going on in her head, and it's more than Jude cheating. She reveals she's been suffering from bipolar disorder since she gave birth to her last child. She explains that after she caught Jude with a woman, she fell into depression, and this led to her bipolarity. She reveals how she missed her meds one time, and she had a panic attack that led her to violence against Jude. She feels Jude is tired of her and wants to leave her. She also reveals that the kids don't stay with them because they aren't safe with her any longer. Nina wonders why she hasn't shared this, and Cynthia replies that she's keeping mum because of the social status of her parents. Nina promises to keep her secret then. Nina also thinks that Jude still loves Cynthia, but Cynthia argues that Jude is tired of her, and she doesn't wish Jude to stay with her out of pity. That night, Oduwale and Judy discuss the situation. Judy tells him that Cynthia has relapsed, and that's why she slapped Jude. Oduwale is angry. He asserts that if it were him, he would have retaliated. That same night, Nina calls for a meeting. Cynthia doesn't wait for anyone before she begins pouring out her frustrations. Each couple has their shortcomings, and Nina soon reveals theirs. Dan cheated and has a son. There was once trouble in paradise. The shock on everyone's face is profound. She begins crying and states how she almost hurt herself after finding out. She says she only took solace in the fact that Dan kept it a secret because he loves her. She mentions the incident has made her learn how to properly forgive. One trait of love is when you have to forgive someone even without the person asking for it. She bared the secret of her marriage to help her friends draw strength for forgiveness. Dan doesn't know how to feel. Nina assures him not to worry. She lets on that he can bring the child home, and she'll love him like he's hers. Dan apologizes to Nina, who doesn't even care about an apology. They cry and hug themselves. Joke goes over to Lanray and hugs him from behind, crying and pleading. Cynthia bursts into tears and Jude goes to her, hugging and consoling her. Back from their trip, Jude is sleeping peacefully when Cynthia wakes up in the middle of the night and gets dressed. She picks up a backpack, and and with tears in her eyes, she writes a goodbye note. She states she can't put Jude through any kind of stress whatsoever, so she's leaving. She reiterates her love for Jude and drops the letter by his side. She drives out, lost in thoughts. A gas tanker runs into her car, causing an accident that claims her life. 1 year later, Jude and the other couples are by Cynthia's graveside, dropping flowers and paying their respects.